Remember that a contract is an agreement between our data model and our views describing how information is stored. It contains constant strings to represent all the fields that our user interface will display, and in the case of Sunshine, that our database will store. We've just covered all the columns that we'll need to use in our two SQLite databases that will store weather and information. Now let's learn how these column name constraints are declared in our weather contract. Let's take a quick look at the weather contract class file that we've given you. The contract class has two inner classes, weather entry and location entry. Each of these inner classes contains constant strings that define tables. Right now we only have column constants for weather entry, the table that contains weather forecast information. The first constant is the table name, which for the weather entry is simply the word weather. The constant values we define in the weather entry class match the values we're storing in the weather table. For example, we've got minimum temperature, which is defined here as column min temp. Pressure column is defined as column pressure. But we're missing a column to define the unique ID. This is because we're implementing the class base columns, which contains a constant called _ID. By adding an _ID column to our table as a primary key, we can utilize various Android helper classes that rely on the _ID column being created. The loc key column is the foreign key we talked about earlier that points to records in the location table. Since the column names don't actually contain data types, it's useful to annotate these types in the variable names and/or comments to make our contract more explicit.